Hey everybody, it's Tony Zayas. This is the SaaS Founder Show where we have fascinating conversations with SaaS founders who've, been through the journey, the ups and downs, gotten through the challenges, and just we learn a lot of exciting gems here. So excited today to have Nico on. He is the co-founder and CEO at Platypus. And Platypus is the HR and recruitment tool that measures cultural drivers of people across the organization to help you qualify decisions, hiring, and managing your culture. We talk a lot about culture here on the show. So, Nico, welcome. Thank you for being on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Very, very good. Thanks for having me. Very excited.
Very cool. And I know you said that you got the kids there today. So
they are there. The two of them, the gremlins over there, they're watching Pokemon because, why not?
Yeah.
And we should be fine. But they might come and say hello.
If they make a special guest appearance, all the better.
Exactly.
Very cool. Awesome. So I read the brief description, but I would love to hear, your take on, how do you explain Platypus, what you guys are all about?
I like to call it talent operating system or culture operating system, right? So, like, if you look at HR and how HR has evolved over the last 20 years, I think there's a very, very clear segmentation of what you do in HR. So you have like your HRS, like your HR system, like a Workday or Bamboo, Personio, etc., which are tools that are basically collecting very static data. When is the person starting? What's their title? What's their salary, etc. Right? And you need one because you basically need to collect that information and keep that information. Then you have applicant tracking system, recruitment tools. They're like a recruitment operating system. So basically to take, open a job and take the candidate from point A to point B until hiring the candidate, right? And what we've built is basically a culture operating system. So what we believe is that your culture, who you are as an organization, should be at the heart of everything you do with your people, right? And it is actually the only differentiator between you and your competition. I know all of us founders love to say, hey, our product is not like the other product, and it's probably not exactly the other product, but truly the only thing that differentiates you from another organization is your culture. And therefore, what we do is collect data at scale from every single employee anonymously, and then build a cultural map of your organization via your people. And with this data, we can basically impact retention, management, communication, and recruitment. So who you are is going to impact the whole talent lifecycle of the people in your organization.
So how do you pull in that information? Like, how do you as Platypus?
Good question.
Define cult. There's so much to culture. We love.
I mean, there is so much, and I am very, very opinionated on this subject, as you can imagine, because of the nature of what we do. So, in my mind, like if you ask any companies what's your culture, they're gonna tell you like, hey, no, we have like mission statements and beautiful words we love to put on the wall, like integrity, respect, and everything. And because I'm French and cynical and cheeky, I tell them that's probably not culture. That probably should be a baseline. If you don't have integrity as a baseline as a human being, there's probably something wrong. And usually, if you have to put it on the wall, there's something wrong in the first place, right? But let's assume that you have true to reality, good mission statement and good corporate values. Those are still autocratic. They're very much defined by top management as a branding exercise on what do we want to stand for as an organization. And they are very important, right? But it's like basically me saying, this is who we are as an organization. I can decide what we want to tend to, but to me, that's not culture. And if you ever travel to France, I love to make fun of my country. We have these beautiful corporate values called liberté, égalité, fraternité. So, freedom, equality, and brotherhood that we love to put on every official buildings in the country. And if you've traveled to France, that's probably not the words you're going to use to describe French culture. You're probably going to use something around strike, complaining, cigarette, wine. And that's because culture is the people. Culture is the people, right? So that means I'm not saying mission statements and corporate values are not true. They are one aspect. Your culture is your people. You're going to experience something different in Cleveland, in New York, and in San Francisco, and we're still in the US, right? So you have subculture. In an organization, you have subculture. In sales, in marketing, in finance, and in tech, you'll have subcultures within your organization. So what we believe is that culture is democratic. Culture is the mass of the aggregation of values and behavior of your people. If you have enough people in an organization that care for flexibility, or let's say for inclusivity, that either becomes the culture of your organization or you lose people. But the bottom line is you need to understand, right? So what we've built is basically a methodology around, call it like a democratization of company culture. We ask every single person anonymously, and that's the critical part, anonymously to invest 10 minutes of their time to reflect on what is important to me today in a work environment. What do I care for today when I go to work in an organization? Is it career? Is it compensation? Is it potentially flexibility? Is it the mission of the company? We all care for different things in an organization. And what we do once we have this data from all the employees, anonymous, 10-minute gamification, it's nice. Then we aggregate. We've built an algorithm that's based on lots of factors because yes, we believe everyone impacts the culture of an organization, but we know very much as well that we don't impact the same way. So we've built an algorithm that's taking lots of factors into account. So you have culture bearer. The higher you are in the organization, the more impact you have on the culture of the company. If you're a leader, if you take management decisions, your behavior, you impact people, you influence people on what's important to you. We have culture anchor. The longer you've been in an organization, the more tenure you have, the more legacy you have in the culture of the organization. We're going to weigh your profile in the system. I know the world, we love to say that the world is remote or hybrid or whatever, which is true, right? That's what we've been going through over the last 2-3 years, but genuinely and literally, you'll always have more impact on the culture if you're sitting next to somebody. So we're looking at location as well. Lots of different factors, all the data aggregated from every single employee in an organization. And what comes out is an absolute gold mine of cultural data. And now I provide you a cultural map of your company that you can slice and dice per location, per department, per gender. You finally have some data on when companies tell me like, Nico, we work on inclusivity and diversity. I'm like, yeah, you better. It's 2022. I really hope you do. But then again, cheeking me, I'm like, with which data? Is it qualitative one-on-one data? Because qualitative data is basically who has the loudest voice.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been building, and then we're going to use these data for recruitment because when you hire people, I really hate the term culture fit, but for lack of we're going to use that term, right? So Platypus is capable of telling you if a candidate is close or far to the culture of the team that you're about to join, and we're not here to tell you that you only should hire people that are like you. We're here to tell you you didn't have data before, you have better data now to take decisions on alignment or if you want to create cultural diversity. We can build as well engagement and retention question, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we've built at Platypus.
I love it. And I love that you've taken something that feels so intangible, culture, and you've made it
tangible,
yes, driven. And that's so important. So we talk to almost every founder. The topic of culture comes up, and you being an expert based on what it is you do, we always ask, describe the culture, and then how intentional have you been about trying to create, the culture that exists? And some people will say, well, it was really important for me to kind of drive this and create core values that would resonate with employees. And, I think we've seen some good examples of that. And others will say, you know what, it's not up to me, it's up to the people. And so we have people who are active and our team builds out the culture. What would you, being an expert, in this space, what would your advice to be to people who are watching this and early stage SaaS to building a team?
Yeah,
you know that their culture, their people are going to, make or break them potentially.
100%.
What's your advice to them?
I think so. Like the first thing I would say is when I say corporate values are autocratic and everything, yes, but they are still very, very important. It is absolutely critical for the leaders or the founders to sit down and say, what do we stand for? What is important to us, right? And those can be aspirational, obviously. The big risk here is that once you define those and you share them in the organization, if you don't live by them, it becomes absolutely it basically becomes toxic. And people are going to call bullshit on what you're doing and not doing, right? If you say hey, flexibility is one of our core value, but then you don't trust people to own their calendar and work, asynchronous and et cetera, it's just not going to work. So it's really, really key that you follow on the mission. But I very much believe, that's why we've built Platypus, that your people will impact the culture, and then there's a part of you that needs to accept as a founder that you won't be able to own the culture or drive the culture or make it what you want. You need to accept that people are not founders like you, and they care for their own things. And what they care for is going to drive their behavior and therefore drive the culture of your organization, right? So you can't brainwash people in thinking like you. You can only lead by example on what's important to you and know that it's going to influence the culture of the organization. You cannot control it.
I love that. And so does Platypus help with getting that feedback from when, your description, the mission, vision, values say one thing, but employees feel like it's not being acted upon?
Not on this one, because Platypus has like a set of 12 core cultural drivers that are not adjustable because of a second product that we're building on top. So basically what we're giving you is what is important to your people and what's going to drive the culture of your, of the organization. What we've realized is that we have users that are telling us like, oh, we have community as one of our core cultural drivers. And I'm like, that's great, but community is probably a mix of relationship, which is one of the 12 core cultural drivers, and collaboration, right? So by choosing broad mission statements that you have in your organization, you can use Platypus by then realizing, okay, those two I can probably merge with this one, etc., etc. What we do, however, after we've asked people what's important to them, if you want to know if people are happy about what's important to them, is we now have the power of selecting very, very specific hyper-personalization of engagement and satisfaction survey on what is important to you people. So now that you have the cultural map of your company, you can actually check if the people are happy about the culture of the organization, which is super critical as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So let's go back a little bit. A fascinating product. I love kind of where this conversation has already gone. But where did you come up with the concept for Platypus? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
And let's go from there.
Yeah. So I just turned 42. I mean, of course, you can't see this because I look like I'm 21, right? But I just turned 42, and I've been working in HR and recruitment for the past 20 years. That's very much my my background, right? And I worked in big enterprise, and I worked in building organizations, scale-ups, and startups. I think I've worked in 6 unicorns over the last the last 20 years. And actually, here in Cleveland, I know that Trustpilot has an office in Cleveland. I was actually the guy that opened Trustpilot in New York City. Cool. It's a Danish company actually from Copenhagen. I joined Trustpilot when it was 30 people, and then I took it from 30 people to 350 people. Opened the New York office, etc., etc. So my background is really much. I'm the guy in Denmark over the last 10 years that when your startup and scale up was really, okay, now we need to scale, let's bring Nico in. He's going to build our HR function, people and culture function. So I have a broad experience into this, right? And as well, that means that over the last 15 years, people have been trying to sell a lot of shit to me when it comes to, HR tools, culture, and everything. And I'm sorry if I curse a lot. It's a French thing. I do a lot of cursing. And so 10 years, 15 years of doing this, 10 years of building organization and everything. And 3 years ago, on the 29th of Jan, 2019, I had a weird epiphany moment. So on the 6th of Jan that same year, I had a knee surgery because I play rugby, which is really not smart, and they had to rebuild my knee. And the beauty of rugby, or like when you do knee reconstruction, is that they give you pretty heavy morphine. Now, morphine is good. It's good to give you beautiful dreams. And I was stuck on my sofa for 3 months, and I was playing a computer game called Football Manager. So it's soccer, like you're the manager of a soccer team, but it's not to make the little guys run. It's a data game, right? Like you analyze data and everything. And at some point, there's a part of the game where you can compare 2 players in terms of the skills. And I had a weird epiphany moment where I woke up and I'm like, that's what we need to do for culture. We need to be able to pull this kind of like data set where we have a candidate and an organization and we put it on top of each other. So I write, my first Google like a page on like the inception idea. And the inception idea was just a recruitment play. We need to solve the issue of there's no culture in the recruitment process. I write this down, and the day after I call my co-founder, Dan, and I tell him like, dude, I had an idea, and I send it to him. And then he calls me like 10 minutes after. He's like, are you still high? I'm like, no. I mean, the morphine is only at night to be able to sleep and everything because of the pain. He's like, dude, I think it's a good idea. We should look into it. And we're both working in the same organization at the time. And because I worked at Trustpilot early days, I was lucky enough to be able to contact Peter Mullman, the founder of Trustpilot, and tell him like, Peter, can you come over for a coffee? I had an idea I would like to run by you because, you're obviously very successful at building a SaaS product and so on. And he came here, was supposed to stay here for 15 minutes. He stayed for 2 hours, and basically told me like, Nico, it's a good idea. I mean, you should try. What's the worst that can happen? And I told him, well, I mean, I have plenty of ideas of what's the worst that can happen. I have a mortgage. I have 2 kids. I mean, I don't know. There's never a good time to start a business, right? Yeah. But Dan and I, we looked at each other and we said, like, fuck it, let's try this. I mean, that's it. So less than a month after, we started the business here in Copenhagen, and we started on the 27th of February 2019. And we started in my basement, because you're not a proper startup if you don't start in a basement or in a garage, right? It's the whole legend of the startup, right? And the 2 of us, and then our first engineer, and then we started looking at the methodology, the concept, first pre-MVP, pre-prototype, and everything, and it was very, very cool. I have good memories of the time working in the basement.
That's exciting. So your co-founder was someone you worked with him, is that correct?
Dan. So Dan is English. I'm French, which normally doesn't go well together, but we made it work for this business. And we've worked together at Trustpilot. Dan was doing sales at Trustpilot. We've worked together at Falcon, at Unity Technology, and we were working together at Pecan. That was recently bought by Workday. And Dan is the best man at my wedding. So we're very, very close. This is an interesting one, right? Because this is something that investors always, I don't know about challenge, but they probe. How close are you to your co-founder? Because that's basically the make or break of the first, 18 months, I think, of building a company, right? But I like to, in a very not politically correct way of describing our relationship, when I talk with investors, I tell Dan is the soulmate I'm not having sex with.
It's good, right?
It's true.
I mean, and I was going to ask, sometimes those co-founder relationships, right? We've had people on who are husband and wife.
Yeah.
And you have people who will say, don't, if I did it again, I wouldn't involve family. Others say, the opposite. Like, that's why we're so powerful, is because we're both all in, and it's, part of what we do together. Was there any point where you were concerned about going in as
not concerned? No, really never concerned, because we know each other for the past 10 years. We're extremely close. We're very aligned on our vision of the world, of business, on how we want to build a business. Some of the things that we put in place from day one of starting the business is unheard of, or at least on this side of the Atlantic. We have unlimited paid vacation. And this is something we've done from day one, because our vision of how do we want this organization to be, like, we are employee first, and we will always be employee first, right? We give shares or warrants to every single person that joined the organization, which is not something that is normally common here in Denmark. And on the family side, actually, my wife, Shanna, is working with us at Platypus, because the 2 co-founders are not Danish, and the 2 co-founders do not speak Danish. And although Denmark is extremely good, with English speaking and everything, all the legal side of things, and all the the billings and accounting, and it's we needed an office manager that was very much hands-on, and my wife is half Danish, and therefore so she, I don't know if there's a rule around it's gonna work or not if you're with your partner, your wife, your best friend, and there is a chance that it might break you as a couple or as a relationship, and so on. But then, if that's what breaks you, something else would have broken you. To me, that's not the problem of the organization. It's the problem that the relationship was not strong enough in the first place.
Great point. We'd love to hear what the MVP looked like.
It looked like dog shit.
Isn't it supposed to look like dog shit?
100%. But so this is something that we I've worked in over the last 10 years, startups, some of the best startups here in Denmark and Scandinavia and in the UK as well, with Revolut, right? But it was my first time building a company. So I had knowledge of the startup world and the ecosystem without the knowledge or experience of building a company, right? And when you have this idea and you want to build something, you really want it to be perfect. Now, perfection, when you're building a pre-prototype MVP, is completely toxic. It's not going to make you move forward. So we built something super quick as a PHP, a web page to collect the data and everything. It was really, really ugly. The colors, horrendous, really, compared to what we have today. But it worked. what we've managed to collect in terms of data, like, and we built that we started in Feb, we did the round of funding in July. So I think we built it like in August. We had the first iteration of it, and then we had the first company that was okay with trying it out, like the testers. And when the data came out of our concept, of our methodology, they were like, wow, guys, this is amazing. And that's when we realized, okay, like, we needed to prove the concept works. And we had one proof of concept, it works. Now we need to completely destroy it and rebuild it. And that's when we did our first, d'accord, mon Raona. We did our first, no, it's just the little one. Okay, tu veux dire bonjour? Okay.
Hello.
Je te laisse, papa, il doit travailler. Sorry about that. I think that's really something I learned. It's not about pushing something that you think is perfect, because first of all, you don't know anything about what the customer wants yet. It's about putting something live, trying it out, A/B testing, iteration. So it's not about how good your first thing is. It's how good are you at learning, and how fast are you at learning, at pushing new things in your product and making it adapt and learn. From the first iteration, we realized the data we provide is not only a recruitment play. And then we started to build all the features around Platypus.
I love how you said that. It's not about how good that initial product is. It's how good you are about learning and iterating, essentially. Yeah. So, yeah, that's fantastic. How did you go about getting those early customers? How did you get people to
network? 100% network. I mean, because Dan and I have been in the ecosystem for 10 years, there's I would say probably 75% of the startup scale-ups in Copenhagen where we know the people, either the founders or people working in the teams and everything. It's a small country, it's 6.5 million people. It's not even Paris in terms of the size. So it's a small ecosystem, but it's a very, very successful ecosystem compared to the size of it, right? And so like the first few ones, it's people that we worked with in the past and everything. We told them like, hey, you know what we want to build. That's the concept. Do you mind trying it out on your people? And we had like Dixa, 4 companies here in Copenhagen that tried the PHP one because we know the founders, we know the teams and everything. And so we had like overall with all the employees, a set of maybe 100 employees going through this, right? As a first iteration with like 4 companies. And even the employees, although it really looked terrible, even the employees were like, wow, this is really cool. You're asking us what's important to us. People don't do this. People tell us this is culture. They don't tell us you drive the culture, right? And then from learning this, then a lot of UX, talking with the people that, like HR leaders that were collecting or getting the data, and talking with candidates, talking with employees. Then we learn, and we change, and we adapt. At the start, we had like 12 core cultural drivers that were divided in 4 different segments. Then it turned into 3 segments. Number of points allocation. I mean, it's the start. It's all about learning as fast as possible. And fucking things up. You burn things. I had some ideas for the product that were like, oh my God, now in retrospect, you're like, it's terrible. But you have to try it out. Otherwise, you're not going to know if it's working or not.
Yeah. What do you say to people that, have that challenge with throwing things out there, that failure, right? You have to embrace kind of falling down and getting back up, and falling down and getting back up. How do you take someone who's early on that is, too concerned about making the MVP just right? And
I think that's probably the most challenging thing early days when you start your business. And personal experience is going to help on this. So like, I think when people ask me what's the closest thing to starting a business, I say becoming a parent, because basically being a parent is failing every day. I mean, every day you fail as being a parent, and every day you need to, adapt. I learned from this, and I'm not going to do this again, and I'll do it again and again. So I'm not telling you that you should have a kid before starting a business, because at the same time, that was really, really hard. Let's face it. Like the business is 3-year-old. My kids are like 7 and 5. It was so bloody hard in terms of the timing and everything. But I think that helps. Or I don't want to do cliche here, but people that have done sport at some level in terms of sports, you learn about failure, and you learn about losing, and you learn about trying again and getting up. but really the concept of like, oh wow, the first iteration needs to be like as good as possible. No, it needs to prove a proof of concept. It needs to be able to prove something that you assume. We have this assumption. We believe we can collect very, very good data on culture by asking people about this. Let's build something ugly, quick on PHP to prove that our assumption is right. Once the assumption is proven, then we can rebuild, and we can add stuff, right?
So to talk a little bit more on the technical side of things, so you come from an HR background. I take it you're not a tech founder?
Oh God, no.
Okay. So, and what about Dan?
No, he's not. Dan is a massive gamer, so he's more tech aware than I am. Let's just face it. In the company, we're like 27 people now. My nickname is the Forrest Gump of tech. I'm really, really bad. I mean, when I touch computers, they break. It's terrible. So no. So first hire was the engineer, right? And that's your first hire is probably the most important thing. You're choosing your co-founder is the most important thing, and I truly believe that nobody should try to do this alone. When I'm part of something here in Denmark that's called Founder, when it's like a early day startup and they come and we're here to give advice and everything. One of the first thing I tell them, it's like in Zelda, in Zelda, the old movie, when the old man gives the sword and says like, take this, it's dangerous out there if you're alone. It's exactly the same concept. You can do it alone, but I would not recommend it because it's really, really intense. Yes. You need a plus one. You need a founder, a team of co-founder. And the other thing that people always forget is that you need a good team in-house with you, working with you. But if you don't have something solid on the personal side, whether a parent or like partner or something, it is not going to work as well, because the level of stress, if you don't have support in your personal family life around you, it's going to be really, really hard, genuinely. Tell me.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I think that's a very practical, legitimate point to discuss that typically doesn't get talked about, right?
No, it doesn't. No, because there's this, it's not toxic masculinity, but there's this toxic way of looking at founder. You need to be Superman, right? You need to be able to work 18 hours per day. You're a machine. You're always happy. You're always excited and everything. You need to, and genuinely, like VCs tell you, oh, we're not here to burn people, but they are. They are here to burn people. They go through, and there's this toxic way of looking at, look at the grind. This guy is grinding and it's amazing. Now, it is a lot of work, and it will always be a lot of work, and it's not made for everyone. And there's a reason why not everyone is starting a business, right? So if you don't have support with a co-founder or a team, a leadership team or advisors strong on this side and at home, I always say, like, I don't think I could have done this without the support of my wife. Or my family was still in France, and I talk very often to them, because you need rooms to be able to, because it's not sustainable otherwise. It's you'll burn yourself, right? And then your first hires, the first engineer, is not with us anymore. I think again, you need to be super, super genuine and honest around companies are growing faster than people in terms of skills. If you start hiring your people saying, hey, we're in together for the rest of time and everything, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to them, especially on the tech side, because tech is where your company is going to grow the fastest in terms of need and knowledge and everything. Your first hire, some of the mistake you might do is, our first hire, our first engineer, we're going to make them CTO. On paper, that sounds like a great idea. But you know what? That person that's building your first iteration, in about 12 months' time, they don't have the skills anymore to take you to the next level. That's just the reality of it. Makes sense. I believe in, it does make complete sense. So call them like tech engineers or if they're into title, find something fancy and everything. Be very good on the warrants though. I mean, this is the person that's going to build your shit, your first shit, right? So it is important that they're rewarded, because without them, you're not going to be able to do the rest of the thing. But, and skills are absolutely important here. Background, skills, of the person, of like, they've done this before. I mean, because they will know how to cut corners and what's dangerous and not dangerous in terms of taking risk and everything. The other thing I would say when I give a hand to people is don't be wowed by certain names. Just because somebody has worked at Google, Facebook, or whatever on the engineering team, they're not early days startup ready. That's not what their experience is. That's not what they're used to. They're used to enterprise. They're probably good developers, but with a massive team around them, right? So it's finding this purple squirrel in recruitment term of a person that's going to be able to work well with you and build your first iteration.
Yeah, I love it. I love a lot of this conversation because it's focused on the people side of things. And a lot of these conversations when we're talking SaaS and we're talking tech, a lot of times it's easy to dive in and talk about the technical side of things. But then you hear, people who are in fundraising and they're talking to potential investors, so often it comes down to the people, right?
At our stage, like your first round is the people. It's the team. They're betting on the team. They're betting on the team and on the idea. But there's shitloads of people that have good ideas. I mean, I can have another good idea today, right? Yeah. But is this team capable of the execution? Are they subject matter expert? How well are going to be working together? Can they do what they say they can do within the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the first 2 rounds. That's your pre-seed and your seed round. Nothing else. Because you don't have product to market fit. You don't have customers yet, or like early days. You don't have product-led growth data that you can show around. Hey, look at it's your team and your people. So the first people you hire, they need to be spot on.
So what is your hiring process look like? I'm assuming you have some unique insight based on what.
So, I mean, we use Platypus, right? We use Platypus, but not in a sense of like we want to do cultural Eurasianism. We don't want people that are like us. I already have me, but I'm interested in knowing what is important to people and take the discussion. Okay, you care about flexibility, you care about mission, you care about career. This is how we can work those things at Platypus, right? That's the first thing. In terms of a lot of the people we've hired was through our network. Again, because we know good people in this organization. I love telling founders, like VCs, if you give me the money, I've hired for the last 10 years some of the best people in Europe. If I have unlimited money, I can build the A team. That's really not a problem. So recruitment is what we're good at. With engineers, my CTO, Louise, she's the one that has the tech discussion because there's literally no point. But we don't do like hey, let's send you a test or anything. We do like a whiteboard discussion. This is how we're building the stuff that we're building. What do you think about it? How would you do same or differently or so on? It's really more about looking at on the skill side. How is the person thinking, right? On the me personally, when I have an interview with people, and depending on where we hire, whether it's product, or sales, or tech, either I come earlier in the process or later on, or either even source candidates myself and reach out myself. But the moment I have a discussion, a first interview, I don't like the term interview, but a first discussion with a person, what I do personally is you need to realize that an interview is a very stressful environment for a person. There's a person that's in the position of power. It's me because I have a job and I can decide to give or not that job. And then there's the candidate that's like, I want the job. There's a reason why I'm talking to you, but there's very much a decision of power. Now, any relationship that's starting like this is not a healthy relationship, and you're not going to get to the best out of things. So we need to put the playing field like even the playing field. So the first thing I do when I have a person that's coming to either like on a phone screen or phone discussion is I tell them, the first 15 minutes they're yours. You can ask me whatever you want to ask me about anything, personal life, work, how we build the organization, anything you want to know, I will answer for the next 15 minutes. Right now, why do I do this? Number one, you are building rapport, and you're building like there's humans, we love to mirror. If I see you doing some things, I will want to do the same things. For the first 15 minutes, you're going to perceive me as being open and receiving and answering all the questions. There's a big chance that you're going to do the same when it's my time to answer the question. Mm-hmm. When it's my time to ask you the question. First thing, I built, trust. Second thing is, all the questions you're asking me, those are the things that are important to you. And therefore, I already collect the data I need to collect when I interview somebody without me shooting in the dark. Should we talk about this or should we talk about that? Because you've already asked me about compensation. You've already asked me potentially about career. You've asked me about flexibility. In my little brain, I'm not, okay, this is what's important to that person because that's why they're asking the questions. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask about this. And then it's really flowing. Then it's a conversation. My job as a founder is to sell them on the vision and the mission. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is where we want to go. If you want to be part of this journey, then let's start.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that approach, the idea of the first 15 minutes why you're doing it, shifting that dynamic,
Yes.
balancing it out, opening the conversation. Really good stuff. I would love to hear a little bit, Nico, about how COVID, and you mentioned the idea of like working in person and the importance of that for culture. So how has COVID and the remote work, how has that impacted Platypus? And also, what are you seeing out there along the lines of remote work and how that's changing the place?
When we started, right, we were in my basement just here on there for 6 months, and I was, like the nice, like 6 people, friendly. It's cool. I mean, I have a pool table in the man cave as well. I mean, it was very chill, very, very cool. But then obviously it's not sustainable because you need to grow, right? So we took an office that's close by to where I live, and we were in the office for August until the world started going shit with COVID, right? And we were like, me and my co-founder, I love to be in the office. I love to spend time with the people in the teams. I think that but this is me, right? It's my personality. I love to chit chat, build rapport, understand people and everything. But that's only me. That's not the same with everyone. So we had already before COVID, we always had like I said, unlimited paid vacation, and we always had like you can work from home whenever you want. There's no guidelines or rules. If you want to come to the office, you come to the office. The only thing we ask people is, when we align on goals that need to happen within the next month, whether you work from home or not, I don't care, as long as you hit those goals. If you don't hit those goals, we're unfortunately going to have a discussion because you agreed on goal, and then we need to readapt and everything. So we had this hybrid model already in the past for us. But when COVID happened, so Denmark was not hit as bad as other countries like France, the UK, or the US, right? But still, it was one of the first countries to close the borders completely. Now, if you look at our workforce, I think 80% of our workforce is not Danish. So they couldn't go home anymore. They couldn't see their family and everything. And that started hitting people. And then as well, winter here now, I know Cleveland, the winter is pretty cold as well. But us, it's cold. But what's very hard in Denmark, it's the dark. Like the winter is long and dark, right? Like the sun comes up at like maybe 9:30, and then it's dark at 3 p.m. And then you're like this for like 4 or 5 months. And this is heavy on people as well.
Yeah.
So COVID, lockdown, working from home and everything, this has been really, really hard on some of the members of the team. So what we started putting in place is that non-mandatory, 9:15 to 10 o'clock, 45 minutes of like just mingling. We had like a Zoom call open, and people were joining, having a coffee, keeping the flame of like office friendship on. Sometimes I would join, sometimes I would not join, because if I'm there all the time, it's not good, because you still want people to be able to have the coffee machine talk, right? And this we had to do, and it didn't hit us financially as a business, because basically we were rebuilding the product, so we had very little business to lose, because we were just starting to rebuild, from the prototype to the actual product. But it did hit us in productivity, because some people were just like borderline depressed. I mean, it was hard, I think, on everyone, man. And then we came back, Denmark decided in the summer, everything is great and everything, so we could go back to the office. We asked people to be super curious. We didn't need to mandatory make it like you need to be vaccinated and everything, because here just people did it. That was just part of the Danish system, right? And then it closed again. And then it got really shit last year, in November, December, to the point that I was supposed to. I went to see my family in France at Easter, but that was the first time in 3 years, and it was the same for the people, right? And then when it hit us the second time, we were more ready for it, so we just plugged and play what we did in the past. I think it was hard psychologically and on the team, not on the culture, because we were very careful with this, and we have the data, and we were able to follow up on what the data was giving us and everything. Now, you asked me as well of what we've seen in the world. Because we have 15 months of data of companies using Platypus in Europe and in the US, there's been some really interesting change around what is important to people. We have 12 core cultural drivers, and some of them are completely reduced as this is not something that's important to me anymore, because of the world has changed. The one data set that has increased the most across countries, industries, everything, is well-being. Well-being as in, it's important for me that the company is taking care of my physical and mental wellness. This is not something that was that important before COVID, but we can see the data, and it's going up. As in today, if you ask anyone, would you take that job? people are going to check before, how did that company deal with their employees during COVID? Did they take care of their people, or did they just like, yeah, fuck off, we don't care if you're sick or not, etc. And that has done a massive switch in terms of what is important to people before I change the job. Similarly, over the last 3 months, we see another change happening. Compensation had dropped over the last 2 months as something that's important to me. And it dropped because people were actually putting well-being is more important than compensation to me right now in a world, like in a work environment. But now with the war in Ukraine and the potential recession that's coming within, we see a massive waves that's looming and coming towards us. We can see compensation is trying to climb again. As in, this is something that's becoming more critical to me and something that's more important to me. The data we see is basically the trends on what people care for in organizations. And it's super interesting to see the impact that global events are having on all this.
Fascinating data that you're collecting.
Yeah, dude, it's very cool. It's really cool data. Yeah.
I would love to go back to a couple points. Like, I would like to hear about, you and Dan, your co-founder. How do you guys align and work to kind of do strategic planning? How do you do that on a regular basis? Is that something you have structured? And then how do you communicate, where the company's going, how things are changing? How do you communicate that to your team?
Yeah. So Dan and I talk every day, if not in face-to-face, because he lives 300 meters that way, on WhatsApp in the evening when I'm in bed. I'm like, yeah, dude, still this. It's a constant open communication, right? And we don't agree on everything, on strategic decisions and everything, but we always align. We're extremely good at aligning and at deciding, okay, like either we find like, he was here, I was there, and we find the way in the middle, or like sometimes I just say, you know what, your idea is better, and your concept about it is better. But we systematically align before we come up with a suggestion to the leadership team. Now, our leadership team is our CTO, our CFO, the person that's in charge of the product, and the person that's in charge of sales, right? And the chief of staff. This team is super diverse, both in gender, in background, and everything. And for us, it's extremely important because I don't need an echo chamber. I need somebody who's going to tell me yes or no, Nico, because of X, Y, Z, etc. So once we have a first concept of maybe a new product idea, or maybe like a new sales idea, or maybe like, change, then we run it with those people. We bounce it around. We bounce it around. We align on the idea. And we have every 3 weeks, following the sprints that we have in the tech and product team, all hands at Platypus, where the product team is showing what they've worked on, the tech team what's been pushed in the product, and then the sales team is doing reviews about all the stuff that has happened over the last 3 weeks. And then usually I present, okay, this is what we've decided at leadership, this is what we're moving forward, completely open forum around open discussions, full transparency. I mean, we've been telling people when it was shit with fundraising, when it's been good with fundraising. I believe that full transparency is the best way to go because you build the trust. People trust in this organization that we're telling them what's happening, right? Now, the thing with starting by functioning like this is you can't change that behavior, because if you stop communicating, then people know, okay, there's something shitty happening, right? So it's forcing us to keep on being transparent, and to keep on being like, this is how we believe the next thing is going, or this thing, and it's giving a voice to people. And I think, again, COVID and the new generations of people coming on the workplace, and I think people want to have a voice. People want to be heard. That doesn't mean you're systematically going to do what they say, but they want to be recognized as, I have listened to you. I don't agree because I believe we're going to do this, but I've heard you. And I think that's, in my mind, the future of management, the future of building organizations.
Fascinating. I would love to hear a little bit about how your role has shifted and evolved over time. A lot of times this is what we hear from founders, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
Everything is changing so quickly. So what did it look like, back when you started, and then where do you spend majority of your time nowadays?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I was Shiva, with like 15,000 arms doing, I was the octopus founder, where you work on every single thing. Yeah. Dan and I, like, very much like, so product, we work on it together. I have like the initial idea, and I'm very strong on the people and culture side. That Dan is very, very strong on the recruitment side. So it's like the two brain merging on the product. Before we started having a product owner, we were very much owning this. That was it, right? I think the most important part of my job early days was recruitment and fundraising. that's the job of a founder, right? Like, so hiring people that are better than you at stuff that you can do, but you probably shouldn't do because you're not the best, and it's taking a lot of your time. Dan has very much focused early days on like operations, sales, setting up the CEO stuff, all the stuff that needs to be set up. When I was very much focusing on with him on the product, and then on sales and founding team and everything, right? And sorry, the VCs. and then as we started bringing people on the product side, on the tech side and everything, I very much switched to basically being doing evangelization and sales of what do we do? Why do we believe Platypus is the right way to go to look at culture versus whatever is out there, right? And still very much focusing on fundraising. I think I've been fundraising for 3 years. I mean, it's basically what you do all the time. And if you're not doing all the time either fundraising or keeping in touch with potential investors, then you're probably not doing your job properly. And if you look at what's happening currently in the market, for the next 2 years, we're probably going to do this a lot more than we should have had, because the market is going to be shit and it's going to be difficult to raise money. So I'd say today, or at least over the past 4 months, because we've been fundraising, 80% of my time is fundraising, 20% of my time is sales.
Okay. So many founders have trouble relinquishing some of that control. As you said, there's things that, I could be doing, but I probably shouldn't. What would be your advice to those people that, again, it's their baby, they're the founder or co-founder, and they have a hard time handing off to other people?
It is so difficult. It is so difficult. I mean, I still have, so I've been kicked out of the design meetings. I used to want to be in every single meeting because it's my baby. I mean, it's literally my baby, my drug-induced baby, right? But it's still my baby. And but I've been kicked out of the design meetings because basically, apparently, I have terrible taste in colors and shape and everything. And they're like, Nico, you're not helping. This is a waste of your time. And I think it's about being super open to the fact that you are not the best at everything. It's just not possible. I mean, and it's not. And if you are, then you're not good at hiring. And if you're not good at hiring, your company is going to die, right? So you shouldn't be the best at everything. Your job is very much to drive the mission and the vision and the strategy of the organization. And this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. So why am I still doing sales? I would love not to do sales, but I'm still the best person to pitch Platypus when I talk to big organizations, et cetera, at showing why this tool is better than anything out there when it comes to understanding your culture, right? I think it's human to want to control everything, but I think you need to realize that you are not helping your company, because you can't be everywhere. And if you try to be everywhere, you're going to burn out. So it's about the hardest thing is building the trust that the person that you're hiring and working with is going to do a good job.
Good stuff. And what does the team at Platypus look like today?
27 people. It's probably an even split between tech, product, and revenue, and then a little bit of an operation team. And we are all in Copenhagen except one person that's working remote in Argentina. Okay. But for us, it's not that I'm against remote, genuinely. I think we just have one of our competitive advantages is that we know people that are good here in Copenhagen. So it's not like if we know good people that we've worked with in the past, or we know they're good because some of the people we work with, they've worked with them, then we shouldn't push for remote for the sake of saying, hey, we're remote first.
So it sounds like kind of a theme here is that network has been important for you.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's what has been successful for us in terms of funding, in terms of recruitment, in terms of selling the product. Network is the most important thing. I mean, it's yeah.
So, looking ahead, what would you say, from your perspective, what does the next 12 months to 3 years look like for Platypus? Where do you want to go? What's on the horizon?
Raising money. I need cash. So raising money is the absolute priority right now. We have currently 100 organizations on the platform across, like I said, Europe, US. The very cool stuff is all those companies, they have multiple offices. So we currently have 100 organizations on the platform that have employees in more than 50 countries.
Wow.
So like you said, the data we collect is absolutely insane and very, very cool. We have a second product that we've launched that's an MVP today that I would like to see growing faster over the next 3 years. So the second product we launched is called Platypus Connect, and it's basically LinkedIn meets Tinder. So when you go as a candidate and build a Platypus print because you applied to a job of one of our users, we tell you, do you want to join Connect? On Connect, you're going to be introduced to every single department of companies that are on Platypus that are aligned with your culture and value. So basically, I'm not telling you this is a good culture. I'm telling you that team care for the same thing as you do. You probably should be introduced to each other, right? My big goal is to kill Glassdoor because I think Glassdoor is horrendous and a terrible product, and it's just a massive pile of lie. I could right now go on Glassdoor and write a review about your organization saying that it's a terrible company that have suffered from discrimination, and they will push that as this person is an ex-employee because there's no way to check if this person has worked for that company or not. And I think Glassdoor is toxic and it's not helping organization or people. So Platypus Connect that's my big goal. Within the next 3 years, this has become the one source of truth that you go on if you want to know if organizations are aligned or not with you culturally. And then pushing more countries. We have, I think, close to 5, 6 now companies in the US, and we would like, obviously, I mean, it's the biggest market, right? So we would like to be more aggressive on the US market as well. Translating it in more languages. I think we have 6, 7 languages. As you know, Europe, we basically speak a different language every 300 kilometers you go. It's, oh, wow, different there, suddenly different there. So we kind of need to address our market, right? But grow the team, but not super aggressive. I think, we're 27, and I'd like for us to be probably 40 by the end of next year, something like this, because we already have a good sized team for the goals that we have in mind. Yeah, that's the next 12 to 3 years.
It's great. Super exciting stuff. Before I get to my last question, we always like to wrap up with the same question for everybody here. If people want to pay attention to what you guys got going on, Platypus, Nico, you directly yourself as well, where's the best place? Would it be Twitter, Clubhouse?
You like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place. The Nico Blier-Silvestri. There's only one in Denmark, so I mean that's easy to find. And platypus.io is the website, and you can reach out otherwise on nico@platypus.io.
Okay, very, very good. That's awesome. So to wrap up, again, this has been a fantastic conversation. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Question that we like to throw out to our guests is, it's a journey as a SaaS founder, right? So if you were able to go back in time and sit down, have a cup of coffee with your past self before you started Platypus, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
I've been thinking about this a few times over the last, because the last 4 months have been super heavy, with everything that's happening, the market crashing, less money on the market and everything. And there's two things. There's the first part of me that would like to tell myself, don't do it, dude. It's not worth it. It's going to be rough. You don't know what you're getting into, right? I think you need to be honest and genuine on this. And then the other side would be it is scary, but do it, because it's. I've never had that much fun. I've never learned that much about myself, about new skills. About I really love what I do. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's stressful. It's exhausting. But I don't think there's anything that comes closer in terms of a work environment than building your own organization with your vision and mission of what you feel is a good product and a positive impact on the world. So I think I'll use the sentence that Peter Mullman said to me when I met him for coffee. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, that's
Just do it.
Yeah,
just do it.
That's fantastic. Well, awesome. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time. Tell the kids they did great.
Yeah, they did. I'm so happy.
No.
They're going to have pasta. They're going to be like, here, kids. Yeah, I mean, that's great.
You can give them sugar now and let them run.
No. No, because it's 8 p.m. here. No, it's what? Sorry, 6 p.m. Like I have to put them to sleep in 2 hours.
That's time to
no
give
sugar.
That's what we do in the U.S. We sugar.
I know, but no, not here. Denmark is like so on the healthy stuff. And if it was France, like sugar and fat, and they'll have cheese and all this stuff. But here, man, people are so healthy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time here today. To everyone tuning in, I highly recommend you guys go check out platypus.io. See what Nico and his team are up to. Really cool stuff. And thank you for tuning in. We will see you again next week with another founder. And again, thank you, Nico. Great having you.
Have a good one, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Au revoir.